Kalawali, working as Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacy Practice, KL College of Pharmacy, Belagavi. Now I am going to talk on total parenteral nutrition and what are the learning objectives. By the end of the topic, what we are going to able to know. We will be discussing about the definitions of the TPN, introduction, types of total parenteral nutritions, and what are the formulations, different formulations are there, and what is mean by indications of TPN, and how much calories requirement for pediatric as well as geriatric and other comorbid conditions, and monitoring of the total parenteral nutrition. So let us discuss one by one. Coming to introduction. So human nutrition is the provision to obtain the essential nutrients and it is necessary to support the life as well as the health. So nutrients are the substances that are not synthesized in sufficient quantity of the body and so must be supplied from the diet itself. So coming to what is mean by macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrients mainly like carbohydrates, fats, protein, dietary fibers as well as the water contents. Coming to micronutrients like vitamins, minerals and trace elements are present. And which are the essential nutrients are required for the body. So first will be protein, that is known as amino acids, fat, carbohydrate, dietary fiber and water and electrolytes, followed by vitamins, then minerals and trace elements. So these are the different essential nutrients are required. Coming to assessment of nutritional status. So how to assess to the patients? So patients should be assessed for parenteral internal medicines as well as specific nutrients deficiencies. So what are the histories are required? So first of all we should know assess for change in the diet pattern. So how much size is required for the food, number and content of the meals. Coming to sometimes there will be unintentional weight loss of the patients will be there and the history of evidence of malabsorption will be there due to the sometimes other illness also will be there. Symptoms of any specific nutrient deficiencies and look for factors which may increase metabolic stress, that is known as due to the any infections of the body, either upper respiratory infections, either lower respiratory tract infections, either inflammations in the body, either any cancers, either malignancy. So coming to functional status, maybe patient will be longer period of the bedridden will be there, suboptimally active and sometimes fully active. So what are the examinations are required for anthropometry and how to be given for total parenteral nutrition? So depending upon the body mass index, it can be decided whether how much the quantity will be given for carbohydrate and how much calorie of the protein will be given, fat will be given based on the body mass index. So coming to the, if it is less than 18.5 and 5 BMI is there, underweight will be there. So how much calorie will be given, everything will be discussed in this. Coming to the normal weight, usually the BMI will be considered for 18.5 to 24.9 of the BMI. And if it is overweight, when we should say the obesity, it will be 25 to 30 is there. And in that obesity also divided into three different classifications, class 1, 2, 3. So one will be 32, 34.9, 2 will be decided like 35 to 40 and 3 will be divided, it is greater than 40 also. So patients who are extremely underweight, if it is less than 14 kg per meter, or those with rapid severe weight loss will be there, have a risk of death, either life threatening, and should be considered for admission to the hospital for the nutritional supplement and nutritional support. Coming to, if you look for the any tissue depletion, either loss of body fat, either skeletal muscle wasting is there, access the muscle function, strength testing of the individual muscle groups, either required any fluid is like dehydrations, either sometimes gastroenteritis is there, either maybe diarrhea is there. In that conditions, loss of the dehydrations, fluid overload, sometimes fluid overload is there. So we have to look for the source of the protein and nutrient loss. Okay, so here the large wounds, sometimes if any patient has the history of any wounds, either burns, sometimes any nephrotic syndrome patients are there, either chronic disease like maybe cancer, maybe endocrine disorders, or comorbid conditions. So sometimes gastrointestinal loss of the nutrients, either any surgical drains. Okay, so here we should see the lab parameters like how much the plasma albumin is there, how much electrolytes, sodium, potassium levels are there, vitamins, how much required minerals. So these pictures we can see the pediatric populations, malnutrition, nutrition patients, and BMI is too low. Here also one more patient we can see the BMI, and totally it is a patient is bedridden is there. So this type of patient is required the TPN therapy. Coming to the specialized nutrition support, if it is a critical illness, induces anorexia, a lot of anorexia, inability to eat even normal food also, and predisposing patients to serious nutritional deficits, muscle wasting is there, weakness is there, delayed recovery is there, and longer stay in hospitalizations. And for critically ill patients, provision of specialized nutritional support considered, which represent the major advance in medical therapy. And sometimes 15 to 20% of patients in acute care hospitals have evidence of significant malnutrition, and small fraction will benefit from the specialized nutrition support. And so here nutritional support via either enteral route, either parenteral routes is used in there are three main settings. One is to provide the adequate nutritional intake during the recuperative phase of illness, either injury, and to support the patients during systemic response to sometimes inflammation, either any injury, either any infection during an extended critical illness. Patients with sometimes permanent loss of intestinal length is there and need to be done the surgery and not functioning properly. In that conditions, special nutrition is required. Coming to what is mean by enteral nutrition. So here the feeding via tube placed into the gut to deliver the liquid formulas containing all the essential nutrients. Preferred route because of the benefits derived from maintaining the digestive, absorptive, and immunological barrier functions of gastrointestinal tract. Coming to enteral tube feeding is useful in patients who have functional GIT but who cannot digest, either ingest the adequate amount of the nutrients. Sometimes short term, less than 6 weeks tube feeding can be achieved by nasogastric, nasoduodenal, either nasovaginal tubes. So long term feeding greater than 6 weeks usually requires gastrostomy, either jejunal tube, which can be placed percutaneously, and endoscopic radiographic assistance and all it is required. So here for this enteral feeding is often required in patients with sometimes anorexia, impaired swallowing will be there, bowel diseases, inflammatory bowel diseases will be there, and associated with digestive organs. 70% of their required nutrients directly from food in lumen. So coming to enteral formulas, it is a modified one, and complications of this enteral will be like aspirations, pneumonia, and diarrhea also can be seen of some of the patients. So advantages, disadvantages both are involved in this. Enteral versus parenteral. Here the enteral nutrition is associated with the fewer complications than parenteral nutrition and is less expensive to administer. The use of enteral nutrition alone often does not achieve the caloric targets. So underfeeding is associated with weakness, infection, increased duration of the mechanical ventilation, increased duration of the hospital stay, and sometimes death also can be seen. So combining of parenteral nutrition with enteral nutrition constitutes a strategies to prevent the nutritional deficit, but may risk have the overfeeding which has been associated with the liver dysfunction, infections, prolonged ventilator support and all it is required. So coming to parenteral nutrition, some of the consequences are there. Maybe it can lead to hypermetabolism, subsequent malnutrition. Strong association exists between malnutrition and increased post-operative morbidity, and sometimes mortality also will be involved. Coming to the administration of TPN can prevent the effects of starvation in the patients with non-functional GIT. So coming to parenteral nutrition should be considered if energy intake has been inadequate. So maybe it is required maybe 7 to 10 days of enteral feeding. It is not feasible. So coming to the gut should always be preferred route of the nutrient administration. So parenteral nutrition is indicated generally when there is a severe gastrointestinal dysfunction is there. Then only you can go for that. Coming to there are different types are involved for total parenteral nutrition. One is the peripheral parenteral nutrition. So here administered through peripheral intravenous catheter, and usually it is generally limited to 1000, approximately 12% of the dextrose solution to avoid the phlebitis. So large volumes like greater than 2500 ml are needed. Temporarily nutritional supplementation with PPN may be also useful. So these are supplement to oral feeding is not optimal for critically ill patients generally. So coming to total parenteral nutrition provides complete nutritional support. So in this it should be like balanced will be there, protein, fats, carbohydrates, even added some of the drugs also. So these solutions, volume of administration additives are individualized based on the assessment of the nutritional requirements. So coming to there are different formulations of the TPN will be there. It is a lipid like 2-in-1 solutions, calories from amino acids 20 to 25%, calories from dextrose 75 to 80%. TPN formulation with lipid 3-in-1 solutions. In that like amino acids 20 to 25%, calories from lipids 20%, calories from dextrose 55 to 60%. So special solutions can contain low, intermediate, high nitrogen concentrations as well as carrying amounts of fat. Carbohydrates are available for patients with sometimes diabetes mellitus patients, either renal failure patients, either pulmonary failure, hepatic dysfunctions and all. So what are the additives will be there in that? Electrolytes like sodium, potassium, chloride, acetates, calcium, magnesium, phosphate should be adjusted daily according to the need of the patient's electrolytes. So it can be adjusted daily basis. The number of cations and anions must balance. This is achieved by altering the concentration of chloride and acetate. So if the serum bicarbonate is low, the solution should contain more acetates, and calcium phosphate ratio must be monitored to prevent the salt precipitations. So coming to some of the medications are also added in the total parenteral nutrition, like albumin, either H2 receptor antagonist, ranitidine and all, heparin also can be added, iron should be added, dextran, insulin, metoclopramide can be administered in TPN solutions. So not all medications, if it is compatible with the 3-in-1 admixtures. Regular insulin should be used if the patient is having diabetes mellitus. So it can be administered subcutaneously according to depending upon the sliding scale and depending upon the blood glucose level. So after stable insulin requirement has been established, insulin can be administered in the TPN solution. Generally at 2/3 of the daily subcutaneous insulin dose can be given. So what are the indications of TPN? We can go for the patients like if the patient is having gastrointestinal cutaneous fistula, renal failure patients, short bowel syndromes, severe burn patients, hepatic failure, or maybe inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease and all, anorexia, acute radiation enteritis and all, and acute chemotherapy toxicity, either prolonged ileus is there, weight loss of preliminary to major surge is there. So these especially for these patients can be given for the TPN. So depending on, now it is like calorie requirement. How much the calorie is required for the adult populations and all. If it is the age, depending upon the age and depending upon the calories can be divided. So if it is adult age is 18 to 65, 20 to 30 calorie, kilocalorie per kg can be given. Same thing elderly and all. So even pregnancy, how much can be given? Lactation, obesity patients. And if it is obese, more obese, like super obese patients. So it can be depending upon the requirement. Coming to carbohydrate requirement, 2 gram per kg per day can be adjusted. And 1 gram equal to 5 calorie per gram. 40 to 50% of total nutrition, because glucose is an essential tissue fuel. Glucose and amino acids are provided parenterally until level of the resting energy expenditure is reached, and fats are also added if it is required. So fat requirement will be 3 gram per kg per day can be given. So 1 gram equal to 9 calorie per gram, 30 to 40% of the nutrition. And this is a protein requirement. How much should be having, like normal metabolic stress is there. Metabolic stress, if it is there, 0.8 can be given. Acute renal failure 1 to 1.5 will be given. Hemodialysis, peritoneal, so it can be given requirement of the daily basis. Okay. And how much fluid is required for the particular person, particular patient, depending upon the calorie intake. Okay, it can be decided based on the age group. 16 to 55 years, 35 ml per kg per day can be given. 56 to 65 years, 30 ml per kg per day can be given. So if it is greater than 65 years, 25 ml per kg per day can be given. And we should see the fluid overload and all. It should not cross the overload. So how much the electrolyte requirement is there? Sodium 70 to 100 milliequivalent per day. Chloride 70, the same thing. Potassium is also same thing. Calcium is 10 to 20 milliequivalent per day. Magnesium 15 to 20 milliequivalent per day. Phosphorus is 40 to 60 milliequivalent per day. Acetate and all, it will be like lesser than that. So daily parenteral vitamin supplementations. So how much, like vitamin A, D, E, K, the given the standard requirement is there. Ascorbic acid, folic acid, niacin, riboflavin, thiamine, pyridoxine, cyanocobalamin, pantothenic acid, biotin and all. So daily parenteral trace element supplementations, zinc 2.5 to 4 milligram, copper 0.5 to 1.5 milligram. So these are all individualizations, and depending upon the requirement, the dose can be adjusted. Coming to how to go for, which administrations of TPN can be done, how to be administered for this. Introduction of TPN should be gradual. For example, approximately 1000 calorie is provided the first day. If there is metabolic stability, normoglycemia is there, this is increased to the calorie goal over to 1 to 2 days. So TPN solutions are delivered most commonly as continuous infusion, 3-in-1 admixture. Bag of TPN is administered daily at constant infusion rate over 24 hours. So additional maintenance intravenous fluids are unnecessary. Total infused volume should be kept constant, and while nutritional content is increased. So these are the references.